Good morning and good afternoon to all our merry Marvelites. As always, I am Christian Blatt, joined as so often when he's on this continent, the one, the only Count Eric Connor. Hello, sir.
You're that way. Yes. Hello. Good to see you in this continent.
As they would say on Jeopardy, our returning champion. Welcome back to Talking Marvel here on Marvel Movie Talk. The one, the only, that Zach Wilson. Zach, great to see you.
That's me, yeah. Well, I'm happy to come back. I'm happy to shout about She-Hulk because I was just watching it, just reading about it.
And we've already got Daniel Drew with a lot of Zachs, remembering you as Doom. And Ivan, equally as excited to see you. And of course, in the Circle Square, our friend Nate Miller. Great to see you, Nate. Thanks for not disputing the fact that you're not really in the Circle Square, the center square.
I'm not good with shapes, so.
And of course, the man who puts the X in Michael Shirley. Great to see all of you. And we are
good
definitely
at this directional waving thing.
Look, Ambi Davis made it look easy. We can't all have those levels of skills. There is a great episode of She-Hulk to talk about, but before we get to that, I wanted to do a little wrap up on D23. I think that for people who were happy to react to what was announced, I think there was some good stuff that came out of it, some big stuff, and the complaints seem to be for things that we shouldn't have gotten, but we'll get to that in a moment. I wanted to start with the big one, which is the lineup for Thunderbolts, which will be coming our way soon. Zach, I wanted to start with you and your thoughts on a Black Widow movie heavy cast from for Thunderbolts.
First of all, it's funny that the big one out of anything is Thunderbolts, the movie, and that's like one of those what world are we in moments. Honestly, this lineup had the only real surprises were Winter Soldier. Yep. And I guess Taskmaster, only because I don't know what that character looks like in a team setting.
Yeah.
This version of the character. Like, I can see why Bucky got brought in. Oh, I guess Red Guardian was a surprise, but it was like, okay, he's there too. I hope she talks, Taskmaster.
Yeah,
in this version. And to be clear, I don't dislike what they did with the character for Black Widow. I think it worked in that movie.
Sure.
I think it was still a fun story. It was an interesting story, an interesting way to do that character. But I don't know how you bring that person into a group dynamic.
Yeah, I agree. The character, as they've developed it, it'll be interesting to see. The power set very much works in a team. I can see that.
Power set fine. Although we have 3 super soldiers in this team.
And Isaiah Bradley is supposedly. He's going to be the captain. Yeah. So I know that it's a good time to have been a super soldier of any degree of success. But yeah, I think a lot of this are people that we expected, and obviously people are taking to Yelena. I think a lot of people will be excited to see Florence Pugh in the show, except for Olivia Wilde, but everybody else will be excited to see her leading the show. That was for you, Michael. I'm glad you appreciated it.
Yeah, thanks.
Eric, as you see this lineup for a Thunderbolts, what are your thoughts about tuning in for, 6 to 8 episodes of these characters?
Well, I mean, I guess that first thing is, right, this is a TV show or a movie? I thought it was going to be a movie.
It's a movie. All right.
Yeah.
So apparently I didn't read close enough. So that's 10
2
demerits for
of
me.
Them? Sure.
Yeah.
Although Zach had a lot of good points here. One, Taskmaster, I mean, she had such a great way with all that dialogue they didn't give her. So now we have, she's going to be mute, or she learns how to talk. I don't know. I mean, I like what same thing with Black Widow, which it is a little weird considering Black Widow didn't exactly set the world on fire. And they're thinking with all their properties and all the stuff they've created over the past 5 years, It's like, hey, you know what we're going to do? We're going to give people what they really wanted. Multiple characters from the least watched of all the MCU movies over the past years.
Well, I think that would be Eternals, but I know what you're saying.
But no one can stop. But we can't stop talking about Yelena. Like anytime she shows up, she lights the internet on fire.
Yeah, Florence Pugh knows how to bring it in everything she's ever done, and including the tabloids. She's fabulous.
As it relates to Taskmaster, I mean, I think that this is going to be the advantage here is the fact that in our current MCU timeline, I don't know, are we 10 years past the point that story was told? You know, because it was after Civil War, so you know, she's had a lot of time, you know, sort of outside of that environment that she was brought up in. So they can literally do anything they want with her. She can be reasonably well adjusted or, you know, still kind of coming out of it. But I think we knew that we were going to get some of these, but I agree with Zach. Red Guardian was definitely the big surprise.
It better be Fat David Harbour, because if it's Thin David Harbour, I'm out. I love to see myself up on the screen, bearded, rotund. Yes, please.
Here's a question: does this movie have a writer or a director officially attached yet?
Director, yes.
So
I would assume so.
Well,
yes. But there's attached, and then there's like obviously somebody's developing it, but do we know who it is?
That's what I was going to say.
The director, and
I don't think we know.
And it was one of those names that I immediately forgot. Saw the credits, and was like, okay. But
I'm just curious if they're more of a comedy background, because this like almost feels like it should be comedy based on this lineup. Which maybe it is, but then you're almost like straying too close to the Suicide Squad in a way, by making it a comedy. Because of all these people, the only person who's not in that doesn't appear in like funny roles, or I guess two, because Taskmaster wasn't played for laughs, even if the others did a lot of comedy, and John Walker.
Jake Schreier is the guy who's directing.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you, Nate.
Oh yeah, Jake Schreier.
I never heard of.
I literally just tried to find it and didn't come up with it. So
he did the new Kendrick Lamar video. That's quite the contrast.
Well, so what you're telling me, the soundtrack is going to be great.
Yeah.
It's, you know, that's
multiple people with the same powers, by the way.
Yeah,
that's a concern too. I mean, like, unless they find a way to really lean into it, like they did in the Suicide Squad with Peacemaker and was it? I'm going to call the guy Bloodsport, but that's not the character's name. But let's call him Bloodsport.
I'm so glad that you brought up Suicide Squad, because as soon as I saw the lineup, that was all that I could think of. This is not a Thunderbolts movie. This is Marvel Suicide Squad throwing together all these side characters that we have. Deal with it. Which, you know what? I don't honestly. Looking at the cast and you know what they've talked about already, I'm interested. I want to see it. But this is not Thunderbolts. Like, and then to put Taskmaster in there is like rubbing salt in the wound, because to me, Taskmaster and Black Widow, which I did not think was that bad of a movie, I enjoyed it. Taskmaster in that movie is what Daredevil is in the Wolverine movie, or no, I'm sorry, Deadpool is in the Wolverine movie to Deadpool movies. Like,
right.
I want Taskmaster in this to have nothing to do with anything from Black Widow. Just tell me that she got brain wiped and now she has a personality and makes jokes and acts like the character that she's supposed to be. That's what I want. To
whoever was saying it before, like I think it was Christian. Like it has been in story time at least a decade.
Yeah.
Because Civil War was what, 2015.
Yeah.
So this comes out in 2025.
Yeah, and then also you have to factor in the extra 5 years for the blip, you know. So in story time, you know, unless she was
blipped, we're slowly catching up to the blip timeline. Like I think so. Like, but it's been like 9-10 years.
Yeah,
since we've seen Taskmaster. So yeah, I think there's plenty of room for her to have developed as a person. It'll be interesting. I'm surprised Abomination wasn't in this lineup.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if that's just held back because I don't think Abomination is done with his She-Hulk appearances and they didn't want to spoil anything.
Yeah, let me ask you what you think, Michael. You know, some of the reaction has been that where's Baron Zemo, where Abomination? And my answer is probably both in this movie. just not officially, Thunderbolts. Let me know what you think about that, Michael, and then what you think about these characters that they've assembled for us.
Well, all I can think when I look at these characters is that they photoshopped Florence Pugh's face to be like normal size.
That's right.
It's like where did the face go? I don't really care about the rest of that or this movie. It just seems like a big screen version of like the Defenders kind of thing. Like, let's throw all these people together, make them do Suicide Squad stuff. I think Taskmaster is probably not going to talk. I think, why is Ghost in this movie? When they're like, Ghost, I was like, who?
Yeah.
Then, Ghost was great.
And then I was like, I guess.
I think that there were a lot of people that, like when I saw it, I'm like, right, Ghost. I just hadn't thought about Ghost in a while. And just to follow up on one point, the screenwriter is Eric Pearson, who wrote Black Widow. So a lot of the common threads are clearly apparent.
But also wrote on Thor Ragnarok,
right.
Agent Carter, and Godzilla vs. Kong. Those are all major green flags for me.
Well, as soon as you said Godzilla versus Kong, you might have lost me, but you had me right up until that moment.
But Godzilla versus Kong, like I thought, like knew exactly what it was. That's the key there.
Godzilla versus Kong 100% agree with you.
Knew the movie it was trying to be, and it did that movie.
Yeah.
But like the fact that he wrote on Thor Ragnarok and Agent Carter suggests to me that this is going to be more toward the comedy side, not the dramatic side, which I think frees this up a little bit to be silly.
I mean, they have Julia Louis-Dreyfus, so to me that was a big. This is going to be a comedy-leaning show. From the get-go. Like
I think that the comedy will be front and center in this. Something that clearly will be a TV show, and I don't need to double check on that, is Secret Invasion, which we'll get next summer. And I liked getting to see a little of it. I think it's mostly what we expected that show to be, but it was still cool to see. Michael, you excited about that at all, or is it just more of when am I going to get Ileana and Psylocke? Is that where the focus still is?
No, I was talking to Jeff Williams Jr. about this, and it's
name
just
dropper.
Like, I'm never gonna be happy, until John Cheadle is Terrence Howard.
Well, that's
the only happen, thing, brother. That is never going to happen. And by the way, I think you and Terrence Howard are the only two people that feel that way. But I do like how grounded you are to that. Eric, what did you think about?
Jeff likes Terrence Howard. I don't know that
more than Don Cheadle.
I don't know about that.
I mean, Don Cheadle played Sammy Davis Jr. in that Rat Pack movie. I mean, it almost doesn't matter what else he did after that. What were you going to say, Zach?
But how bonkers would it be if they use that recasting as the point at which Rhodey became a Skrull? Like,
yes!
So I thought about that too, actually. But then.
What? That made me a
bad. Nobody else reacted.
Taking the shape of what someone else looks like. Like, how are you going to be a shapeshifter and then change what the person looks like?
No,
Zach, I want to pull on that thread for a second.
I accept that. Yes, because the meta of the casting, of course, is but it's a silly thing that they even acknowledge. His first line is, "It's me. Get over it." Moving on, like they literally just say,
Well, let me pull on that thread for a second. Would Mark Ruffalo also be a Skrull then, because he's not Ed Norton or Eric Bana?
No, he's a completely different person.
Okay,
literally.
I'm thinking more multiverse, like Peter Parker.
Oh, okay.
That's what's going on.
All right, so John Krasinski's going to be everybody from a different multiverse each time.
I hope he's Captain Marvel.
Look at so Cammy Egan, Terrence Howard is from the 383 universe, and Ghost 8386. I can't dispute the fact that Don Cheadle was in the Meteor Man. That might be an underappreciated superhero film from Robert Townsend. But Eric, I wanted to ask your thoughts on Secret Invasion.
Well, Michael, I do hope one day Don Cheadle gives interviews half as interesting as Terrence Howard's, which if you guys have never read them, they're amazing. Spend some time Googling that. You will not regret it. Secret Invasion looked cool. It kind of looked like the kind of the Captain America Winter Soldier end of the sort of tonal spectrum, if you will. And I love that movie. So, kind of a bit of a thriller, mystery, a touch of the invasion of the body snatchers, and I think like that was a really good comic title too. I enjoyed reading that a bunch of years ago. And I think like the way they've kind of worked it into the MCU could be cool. I was surprised maybe except for Don Cheadle and Nick Fury, it seemed like maybe a lack of major characters or players from the MCU thus far. I know there were others, but in terms of ones that would have an impact. But again, I know there's a lot of things they can't show us yet on that one. So, I'm pretty stoked about it. And I think, it's funny, right? This is the first time that Samuel L. Jackson's really going to be front and center as the lead of any of these properties, as long as he's been in the MCU. Yeah. So the fact that he's now going to be, it seems like the center of the storytelling, I think that alone is a reason to get excited.
What are your thoughts, Nate, about what we've seen of Secret Invasion?
I mean, I'm similar to Eric in that I love Samuel L. Jackson and I love Nick Fury, one of my favorite characters. And I'm not gonna lie.
Let me just interject for a second. Do you love Nick Fury, the character, so much that you even appreciate the David Hasselhoff iteration of Nick Fury?
No.
Okay.
You mean the real
we all needed
Nick
to know
Fury?
where we stand on
exactly. The
real Nick Fury.
But I will say that I was, to be a snooty comic nerd, I was a little upset that they cast Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Cage when it happened, because like that's just not how
see that
I saw
movie
the character. And I think he's done a good job of, I think also the movies have done a better job of using the character, but to actually get some espionage and to have him be like he's just kind of been there as like an interface for people and not really been like the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., this guy who's has all these different agents and nobody knows what each other's doing, but he's got some big master plan. Like, so that idea of that coming into this with the Skrull stuff, Secret Invasion is an awesome story arc that I really love. And I'm curious how they're going to kind of adapt it here, especially knowing that like they have already kind of made the Skrulls out to be like good guys or like they're just refugees. Yeah. I'm curious how they like, what the conflict is going to be, right? Because if they've been working with S.H.I.E.L.D. and Nick knows that they're there, and like, does that mean that some of them are good and then the rest of them are going to get there and be bad? Like, I'm trying to figure that out, but I'm excited. I like Don Cheadle, love Samuel L. Jackson. I do kind of feel, I don't know. On the one hand, I thought this would be like a movie thing, but I do think for the espionage stuff, a show might be better. But if they do a show, I want like 8-10 episodes. I don't want like 6 30-minute episodes or whatever.
I definitely agree with that.
That's not going to cut it.
Zach, how do you think this MCU iteration of Skrulls plays out in a Secret Invasion, and just your general thoughts on what we've seen of it?
Well, the trailer looked good to me. The thing that I keyed in on in that trailer is they gave us a hint of what the story is and how it's going to shift, because they set up this. They didn't have to give us much towards what it is, but they set up some kind of Maltese Falcon like thing that they're going after. Because I forget exactly what he said, but like Nick Fury says that to Talos at one point, like the lights are shutting off on me for some reason in this room, because my point is so intense that the Skrulls are coming for something that Nick Fury has or has hidden or has access to. There's something that they are coming for, and obviously it can't be the Tesseract that they were looking for the last time.
Yeah.
But something that Nick Fury has hidden is valuable to the Skrulls, and in order to protect that, he has to maintain his whole spy network and put them all to use. So that's, I think, a great, very simple goal that you could just have like a band of Skrulls going after. It's not about destroying Earth. It's about one very small concrete thing, which should help the overall story, because whole world going to end, not an intriguing plot line. very specific thing that could affect our characters, now I'm interested.
Especially because like the thing with originally with Secret Invasion for the comic books is like the cool part was you don't know which hero next is going to be revealed as a Skrull. And so with the scope that they're doing now, just like you said, like this idea of whole world domination stuff, it's probably not, it really wouldn't work that well. Right. But I think he's really on the money. Like if it's something like the Winter Soldier thing, where it's like a small group that has a goal that they're trying to do, and they just so happen to be Skrulls, so they're using their shape-shifting powers to do that. And then we get a little bit more. I'm excited for the look more into like the dynamics between SHIELD and the government, and you know the how those interagencies play together. Because obviously we have War Machine Brody getting, looks like he's like a senator or something now.
Yeah.
So he's got some type of influence. But yeah, I think Zach's right on the money with that prediction.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Now, in the interest of getting on to She-Hulk, I'll mention the fact that at D23, for people who were there were presentations for Quantumania, the Marvels, and also for Wakanda Forever. But much like with the moments out of Comic-Con that we didn't get to see, none of us were there. Unless
are you just going to not mention Werewolf by Night?
No. That's what I'm moving to. And skipping all those movies because we don't have anything. But Werewolf by Night is actually exactly what I wanted to talk about before we talk about She-Hulk. I was just sort of acknowledging that, people that were there got to see some stuff about it. And Werewolf by Night is definitely an interesting property. I liked that trailer mostly because I was surprised. I'm like, oh wow, this is like coming, I guess, soon, and it's like done, and it gives a real horror feel. And there's always been this notion of like, yeah, and then Marvel's going to do some horror, and you can argue that about Multiverse of Madness, but that wasn't a straight horror movie. It had elements within it. And I think that some of us thought that they might have been taking that step when they did the Hellstrom series, but boy, that did not go the way I think any of us expected who actually watched it. But I don't know. I like what we're seeing here, and it's not something I'm particularly familiar with. I know they restarted the series a couple years ago, and I read a few issues of that just to kind of familiarize myself with it. But what is your thought, Zach, on Werewolf by Night?
I'm really intrigued. I for the first time, I don't know entirely what to expect.
Yeah.
From a Marvel property. From what I'm hearing, it's not going to be as B movie as that trailer necessarily, but it is going to be intense. So that's the part I'm looking forward to. Is like, I think they're just going to swing with also Man-Thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was going to mention the fact that Man-Thing is in the trailer, and the fact that we're getting Werewolf by Night and we're seeing Man-Thing in there. I mean, they know what they have in terms of these properties, and they can definitely build sort of like a subgenre, how like the Netflix shows were the sort of the Hell's Kitchen universe. I mean, you can do a little horror corner of there. A couple of things quickly. Ivan Soto, Hellstrom was a good show. Agree to disagree, my friend. Strongly disagree. Cami Egan, I really want Werewolf by Night to stay in black and white. It has great old school Universal Monsters vibe. I love that thought. I just don't think that they would actually take that creative point. And Daniel Drew, always with the eagle eye, there were TVA agents in the Werewolf by Night trailer. So not only was there Man-Thing, we got to see some of that. So it can be, that gives the feeling that it'll be incorporated in the MCU proper, even if Werewolf by Night doesn't show up in the movie. Go ahead.
I actually think Cami Egan is going to be pleasantly surprised. I think they're going to do this in black and white. That's why they showed us that.
Yeah. What do you think about this, Nate? Is this something that seeing that trailer made you more interested in, or is it about the same as it was beforehand?
I didn't watch the trailer. I
appreciate your honesty because
I'm sorry. It's just, this is not my thing.
Look, I'm going to tell you right now, if I were you, this is what I would have said. It's like, it really didn't make an impact on me. And because that's like kind of a way to like half truth and pretend that I saw it.
I'm just not a horror movie person. And like, even though I'm sure it's not going to be that scary because it's still a Disney product, like it's just, I just know when things are not for me, I'm happy that people are excited and they're like enjoying this. to me, this is just like another opportunity where Marvel could have finally carved out a little section for their adult fan base, which has been fans of their stuff for the entirety of their lives, and now they have a bunch of money to spend, so maybe they want some R-rated adult properties. But that's fine. People like this kind of campy stuff. I'm happy for them. I am interested though because of if there are TVA characters, and I didn't know about the Man-Thing appearance. That actually is kind of cool, but maybe I'll watch it after this.
He's in like a split second of the trailer, but it's I saw it. I was like,
tell me that's what you did.
Michael,
pretty much.
Michael, a character who, when the sun goes down, turns into a completely different person who is completely uncontrollable. Is that perhaps somebody that you can identify with and might be interested in seeing a show about?
I live for the night. Man, if this was the way they presented it, like a B movie, like grindhouse kind of midnight 70s movie kind of thing, I would be totally for it. I don't feel like it's going to be like that. But other than that, if it weren't for the very cool presentation, I'm down like with Nate. Like, I don't really care.
That's fine, and to Nate's point about the, more adult content, there's these rumblings that when they're able to buy Comcast's stake out of Hulu, that Disney Plus will just absorb Hulu. So I think that within the next 3 years, there'll be a lot more corners of Disney Plus that are more geared towards adults. So I think that building up this kind of like side universe, I think will be very effective. Before we move on to She-Hulk, Eric, I wanted your thoughts on Werewolf by Night.
Well, on what you were just saying, I mean, a million years ago, if you remember, Disney started to release R-rated movies under the Touchstone banner. And so I feel like that would actually be a smart play, is like if Marvel did have its version of Touchstone, that in essence, they could do stuff without worry about, is it PG-13 enough?
Marvel Max, we got it back in the day.
Or was it like instead of FXX? What's that?
Hitmonkey.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
That was great.
Right.
If Hitmonkey was on the little adult carved out section for Disney Plus, it would have got so many more people would have watched it. But I know people that didn't even know it came out because they didn't promo it at all, and then it came to Hulu.
Because it was Jeff Loeb's show.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was because it was Jeff Loeb's show. But Eric and I did a whole show about how much we were shocked how good Hitmonkey was.
I watched it because you guys said it was good, and I was like, "Wow, it really is good."
Great, yeah.
And see, Michael, Eric and I aren't wrong about everything. Nate believed us.
I didn't
insert drool.
I've never heard of Hitmonkey. Like, they did no promo for that. Like, at all.
They did not. I mean, it was really, there was more publicity for the Hulu shows that got canceled, like Howard the Duck.
When was that even a series?
Happened. Yeah. Anyway, Eric, I want to let you finish your point before we move over to She-Hulk.
Werewolf by Night, the trailer was so much fun. I do hope actually the movie has at least some of that tone. I mean, just something to really make it its own. It's funny, I forgot Man-Thing was a movie. Like, I completely forgot that in the mid 2000s, right? And I noticed on Amazon they're selling it for $5. I'm like, I don't even know if it's worth $5, but I might have to now before Werewolf by Night.
Is it part of a good double feature with Elektra?
That's right. We're still, one of these days we will do the Marvel titles we have never seen a special. But I think this looks like so much fun. I don't know much about Werewolf by Night. I love horror, so I'll be watching it, and I guess I'll watch it before my kids to see, like, okay, how far do they go? Although I'm not too worried now.
Yeah,
he's 14,
and you of course have to be concerned. Do we see Man-Thing's Man-Thing? Because if we do,
Man's
kids can definitely not watch it.
When you said adult content, I literally thought if you just add an apostrophe S to Man-Thing, it's perfect.
This is why we can't have nice things.
It is 100% why we can't have nice things.
Can we also mention that Morbius is on Netflix now?
Yes,
it is indeed Morbin time.
It is indeed
Morbin time.
I saw it.
And give us 10 seconds what you thought about Morbius, Michael.
Completely worthless.
All right, that was less. I'll yield those 8 seconds back to the distinguished gentleman from Burbank. In any case, in a moment, we'll be joined by a friend of mine who is going to help us navigate some of the legal side of She-Hulk. But Zach, obviously, I asked if you had time for the show because I always enjoy talking Marvel with you. But She-Hulk in particular is the property that, while I've been excited for it, more than that, I've been excited for how you were so excited for it. And I have quoted on this show over the last few weeks as we reviewed the first 4 episodes what you always said you wanted from a She-Hulk show. So please mention what that is and if you feel like we're close to getting that with this show.
Yeah, for years I always said She-Hulk, the best version of She-Hulk is where it's Ally McBeal, but with superheroes.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we're getting. I also didn't know at the time, and Christian, you had sent this to me, but then I had seen it when Dan Slott initially tweeted it out. He was talking about that's how he pitched his take on She-Hulk was Ally McBeal, but superheroes, which was just like, okay, great. So that clearly came through from his run that like I picked up on it. But that's what they're giving us, and especially now, like hitting into this episode where like they're in their stride as they hit mid-season. Like this is a sitcom. This is a comedy show, a comedy lawyer show that just happens to be about a superhero, which is exactly what it should be.
Yeah, I think tonally we've been very happy with the show and the fact that look at She-Hulk. And I know that within the last few years, they had a very dark take on the character. And I think that reinforced that that's not what people want. People
that was a great run. The Hulk run, you mean?
Yeah, the one that was just called Hulk. Yeah, but
I thought it was a great run. It's just
I think in general people prefer the Dan Slott, but going back to what I always reference is the John Byrne fourth wall breaking. I know I'm in a comic book, and let's play with those conventions. And I think that works to introduce us to the character. Have that first episode with Bruce. And really just, hit the ground running from there. And I do want to bring in our 6th head. This might be a record for the show. Jason Blair, who is here to talk about She-Hulk. But Jason, give a quick moment for what your actual day job is and why I would say you're an expert to talk about this.
I got to take umbrage with your description on the description. It says, I'm here to talk about copyright law.
I don't know.
We're here to talk about trademark law today.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
I am a trademark attorney
yes.
at Smith, Gambrell, and Russell, as you can see. So I was very excited to kind of see how the show went and give you my thoughts on it. Before we start on She-Hulk, though, I did listen to the last 5 minutes. Is Werewolf by Night, isn't that kind of redundant? Isn't the by night part, is that really necessary? Is there, I guess Teen Wolf,
you can't
Werewolf by Day, right?
It's perfectly appropriate because you can't trademark just werewolf. That's in the public domain. But Werewolf by Night,
yeah. Then the question is whether it's descriptive.
And Zach, you're talking Jason's language. You brought the trademark into it, and that always gets him interested. There's a lot to talk about the show this week, but let's talk about the fact that we've had 2 cases. You can comment on last week, which was, Wong didn't want Donnie Blaze, basically sharing, his limited teachings of the mystic arts. And then also the trademark infringement of She-Hulk, which seems more cut and dried. Take a moment and give us your thoughts on each of those cases. Just, in the hypothetical that they came on your desk and you were going to have to help, defend Wong and the mystic arts.
Well, the main thing I love about the show and that I hate about the show at the same time is the way they portray the introduction of evidence into litigation. You literally just walk in with evidence in your hand and they're like, Your Honor, here's my evidence. And no one's seen it before. If that's how evidence was introduced,
I know that Jack McCoy, aka Sam Waterston, will always allow that. So I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what courtrooms you've been in, but the ones on my TV, that happens all the time. So I don't know what you're talking about.
We have these things called discovery, and then there's all these motions that, you know, what gets introduced, what doesn't get introduced, and that's usually 90% of what a trial is fighting over.
You know, I'm gonna hold back talking about discovery, but and a good example of that would be, I don't know, accidentally giving the other attorney the entire contents of your cell phone, which may have happened in a high-profile case recently. But anyway, let's not go on that.
You don't want to break out your lizard people.
Yeah, no, exactly. But anyway. So all right. So these two cases that they had, though, what are your thoughts?
Honestly, I was fairly impressed with today's episode, the trademark episode. Usually there's so many ways that this can go wrong, and I am that field of law that even lawyers don't know a lot about trademark law unless you specifically practice it. There's really only been one TV show I can remember that actually, or movie that talked about trademark law, and that was Coming to America, when he's got McDowell's and the Big Mick, and that's like, it's trademark humor. You don't really see that. So I do think whoever they had consulting on the show definitely is a lawyer. Like, she was listening to the Pro Se Law 360 podcast in her car when she saw the big billboard on Sunset. And that's like a legit podcast that nobody besides a lawyer would actually listen to. So
I like that. Okay.
Whoever their consultants are on that show, they know what they're doing. So looking at the case here, I do tend to agree that Tatiana had a very weak case, because with trademarks, a lot of people assume that you get a trademark by going out and registering it first. And that does work in some countries like China. You get your trademark rights from going out and filing it first. That doesn't work that way in the United States. In the United States, you get trademark rights by using your mark first. If you use it and consumers recognize that as your brand, someone can't go out and then file a trademark with the Patent and Trademark Office and say, "Oh, I beat you to it." So that was like when her brother Chip, who came in, and he was actually confused. He's like, you have to trademark this stuff. Yeah. Well, you don't really have to get trademark rights. If you can show that you were the first one using it, even before someone else went and filed it, you have prior rights, which was basically the argument that her attorney took, was that consumers recognized her as being that name. So it doesn't allow Tatiana to just come in and file. The other interesting part was trademarks they don't just apply across the board. So she was using She-Hulk for a cosmetics line.
Right.
So that doesn't necessarily mean that another party can't use the same mark for legal services or superhero services or whatever those would be. You would have to show that there's an overlap. You can have two identical named companies that have a trademark, but they're in different fields. Like, if you have Apple Computer, that doesn't mean somebody can't open an Apple furniture store, because you'd have to show that consumers would relate furniture to computers. So Tatiana having the trademark, that would only apply to cosmetics. That wouldn't prevent She-Hulk from using her name for other services. It would probably just prevent her from starting her own cosmetics line.
Well, I would assume just for a second. I want to assume there's exceptions to that, because the two WWF companies should have been able to coexist by that logic, but the World Wildlife Federation predated the World Wrestling Federation, brother.
Yes, I will get the reason for that. Actually, is not U.S. Trademark law. It's
okay, but let's let Zach had a point before we get into that, brother.
Well, I was going to say, and there is precedence for using a Hulk brand without a Hulk's permission within the MCU, because we know that Ben and Jerry's used Hulk a bunch of fudge as an ice cream flavor, and Bruce Banner was off planet, so he did not give sign off.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
true.
That could be what we call a false association. If you it's not a trademark infringement, it's a false association. And to answer your question about the WWF, in the United States, there was not a relationship between what the World Wrestling Federation and the World Wildlife Fund were doing under a U.S. analysis. The issue was that the World Wrestling Federation wanted to move into Europe and have more shows in Europe. And under European trademark law, they don't analyze trademarks in the exact same way. And they told the World Wrestling Federation that they couldn't operate under WWF in Europe because of the World Wildlife Fund. So at that point, the World Wrestling Federation had to determine, do we market ourselves as WWF in the US and something entirely different in Europe? Or do we just change our name globally, and that way we have a single brand worldwide? And that's why they actually changed their name. It had
but to tidy up the legal side of it, do you feel that at least in a TV show with a very large green protagonist, the idea that she identified as She-Hulk and was using the name was grounds enough to tidy up this storyline in under 30 minutes?
Yeah, and that was the great part about it, is with trademarks, it doesn't always matter how much the parties want people to recognize their brand or how much they market it. What ultimately matters is, what do consumers think this refers to? Which was why she had to parade out the boyfriends, because whether she claimed ownership of the name or not, if people recognized her as that, that's where she has a trademark. And so I thought it was a very good play to show it doesn't matter if she owns up to that name or not. People recognize her as that. Right. So it is hers.
Keeping it on the story side, Nate, I wanted to get your thoughts about sort of, we watched that moment on Jen's face when, she knows she's going to win the case. But when her attorney says, would you have gone on that date with Jennifer? And he says, no, she's not my type. That's exactly. That's a very Ally McBeal arrow right into the heart moment, actually. What did you think about sort of, the like, oh, this is really sound from a legal point of view, but emotionally we could see that was rough on her.
I mean, I thought plot wise, like, I really liked that moment where she had that realization of, oh, this is my evidence. I call all these guys in that specifically came, to me for She-Hulk. And she's like, that's how I'll win the case. And then also the realization then sets in on her face that she has to now have all these guys that she dated come testify about their dates in front of court. I thought it was really clever, good writing, great way to bring, something from a previous episode back without it like feeling like it's just like a part two, it's interesting to me because, like, I understand the character struggle they want of her to, like, what is my identity? Who am I really? Which one is the real me? Which one is not? Am I both? Yada, yada, yada. But I gotta be honest, like, if I was on a dating app and I saw She-Hulk and it was only pictures of She-Hulk, and then you change into Jen, like, it's not that I don't think Jen's pretty. I think Jen's pretty, but if She-Hulk is my type, like, you just lost like 2 feet. Not to mention the mass and then the skin color change. There's a lot that physically that altered. So I don't know. It'd be different if she just like changed personalities and then it was like, oh no, I only like that personality of you, but you physically
it's not like taking the mask off like Spider-Man.
Right, exactly. Like it's like totally different physical change. So I don't know, but I also understand why she would. I mean, nobody wants to hear that. That sucks.
Yeah. Michael, how do you feel from the dating app being such an important part of this, and Jen having to sit there with people explaining that they're not really interested in her and just the celebrity version of her?
I mean, it's kind of sad, but you can't be everyone's type. My favorite thing was that she actually put on her profile mean green and poured into these jeans,
That
I was
was
like,
amazing.
she's definitely the same person when she turns into the full.
The look that Titania gave her at that point, I thought was pretty amazing. Actually,
So good.
And I was actually really shocked at how much I liked Jamila Jamil. I was annoyed by that opening sequence, the way she just kind of threw her across the room and she just looked annoyed. Like, I didn't think we were going to get much good from her, but I like the way she's playing it.
Yeah, I agree that we're getting so much more from that character in this episode, and you can see, anybody who saw her on The Good Place in particular, you're like, oh yeah, there's a lot that she can do instead of just getting kicked across a courtroom. So yeah, I appreciate all that. Eric, your thoughts sort of on the main case in this episode as we watched it play out.
Well, first of all, Jason, thank you for joining us. Because if you weren't going to talk, it was going to be me with my limited memory of my dad's work as a patent attorney at DuPont in the agricultural department, which would have been a little less relevant, but maybe informative about pesticides.
Did you just try to humble brag to another copyright lawyer?
I humble bragged that my dad.
I want to make sure we all knew what that was.
I know a few things about laws.
Yeah, but that's what we call Delaware law. And it's handled on the streets, not in the courts, that tells you. I don't know why that would be the Delaware accent.
Take it to the vegetable fields.
The pumpkin chunking contest. But you know what? For one thing, I think there's something really fun that She-Hulk had an entire episode with no action, no fights, a case of trademark, right? Not copyright law, and a very large subplot about fashion. And somehow still it's like She-Hulk continues, thanks to Zach Wilson's initial idea, to continue to really like hook me. Like, I'm perfectly happy with the case of the week being something kind of like low key and small. And yeah, go ahead.
I thought it was awesome that the B line was also in my field. It's still a trademark issue, with the and Avengers. I thought it was the Avengers. And honestly, the big thing in trademark law right now is just the sheer number of poor fake goods that are coming in from China. And it's one of those things where it's sort of like it's a touchy subject in our field, because it's almost like it's a given that if it's fake and it's a counterfeit good, it's got a Chinese origin now. And I thought it was very interesting. The guy was like Chinese, and then he's like, well, I'm not Chinese or whatever. But it was a very interesting field. I have a question. I've watched 5 episodes of this. Did that male paralegal who wanted the Iron Man shoes, was he so like street before? All of a sudden, his like accent seemed to be more.
I agree with you, and I wonder if maybe there was something that was shuffled to another episode. He didn't seem so different than he was, but you're right. I thought he was kind of straight laced the first 4 episodes, and all of a sudden he shows up in episode 5. He's like, hey, "Yo, we going downtown, and we're gonna," and I'm just like, what?
His first entrance to the show is them delivering a basket and saying like, "This is a map to the best bathroom for pooping." That was like his first line on the show. So I think he can be a little. Like, they set him up to be a little ridiculous.
I guess. It's like some showrunner was like, he needs to be more street or something. And
I think he was more casual, because we haven't really we've seen him more working around the office and like talking to his superiors. So like this is him talking to Nikki, who is more of like a friend. So I think that's why it was more.
He's letting his guard down now, maybe.
Yeah, and then also too, white people tend to, when they think they're doing something illicit activities, they tend to like try to street it up to kind of make themselves
all
feel
the time. What happens to every white man?
So that was probably part of it as well.
Yeah.
Well, in like Christian's,
Eric and I are both nodding because 100%.
Oh yeah. Well, in Christian's dating life, he used to have one to rock and one to stock back in the day. before he was tamed by the lovely
Those weren't
Heather.
shoes, though. Those were not shoes.
Yeah.
Before we run out of time, I wanted to move it to the fashion aspect. And unfortunately, we do also have an expert on fashion. Michael, tell us a little bit about sort of those sequences. You know, she wanted her fancy suits. And of course, we'll also talk about what was in the box at the end.
Yeah, I think that we're going to be seeing that character that's making these superhero suits. I feel like we're going to be seeing him around for a while, and I think they're kind of introducing a lot of little roles that we're going to see kind of carry over into different films and shows. I was really shocked that Daredevil had a gold helmet in that box. That was really shocking to me. I would think that
that's for when he goes to, like, you know, fancy events. It's like his dress form.
Yeah, I thought that'd be a little flashy for his return. I mean, who knows?
I mean,
he might see it
can't
and reject
it anyways.
Oh my god, thank you. I love that.
Couldn't they use that little lady from the Incredibles to make the outfit?
Edna Lamont. Yes, I
Definitely
agree.
had some Edna energy for sure.
Yeah. No, I thought I liked that character, and I think you're absolutely right. This is not the only show we're going to see him. This is I think we're going to see a lot of him. Not so much about that in particular, Zach, but I know we've only got a few more minutes with you, so I wanted to, whether you want to comment on that or anything else about the episode or the show, just wanted to give you a chance to share your thoughts with us.
Yeah, I mean, like, just like to the online dating stuff in the courtroom, because as somebody who has in the past few years spent a lot of my time, more than I care to discuss, on dating apps, the idea of having, but it's like I was dying of laughter the moment they even just, like, as obvious where they were taking this, like the idea of showing your dating profile in a public court appearance, like the things I put on dating profiles, I don't want to show my best friends. And so to have to put that in evidence is just like, I was dying. The idea of putting, you know, a parade of your dates up like that, it's just perfect comedy. But to the fashion side, like that's again, it's like all the best parts of Jennifer Walters. Like, that's why I love this character. And what they're doing with the show is they're doing the best part. It's like, this is just what a person has to deal with, elevated to a heightened reality and an absurd thing. Like, to have to use your dates as evidence, and then to have to, like, just shop for clothes. Like, I just need to find things that, like, work for my life. Like, try to, like, live like a human being. Is like, just, they made her personable in a way that we don't get from a lot of these MCU characters. Just, like, down to earth. And then, yeah. I like the idea that Daredevil doesn't go to, like, a hidden room with a parolee who's going to craft his stuff and has also been working on stuff for Stiltman, but goes to, like, this high-end fashionista for his armor. It's going to be, I can't wait.
Yeah, no, I'm very excited to see how that plays out. And is there one thing that you are looking forward to the rest of the series that maybe that we don't know about, something that you're hoping to see?
It's in the mid-season trailer, but I can't wait to see Jen and Matt flirt.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what I want. That's the She-Hulk show for me. Jen and Matt flirting, and then having to go up against each other in a court. Yeah. We don't know that that's coming, but that's what I want. I want them superheroing, flirting, and then being in court against each other.
Well, Zach, if people want to keep tabs on you and keep in touch with you, how do they do that?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter, Instagram at that Zach Wilson. Yeah, I'm always
and I'll pass Jason's information along to you in case you want to file a suit against the quarterback for the New York Jets for the damage that he has done to the name Zach Wilson. And I think you have a pretty good case. I don't know.
It's really just like I have like personal, like I have therapy bills that need to be paid for since he got drafted. Personal injury. I need help. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Zach,
right.
and hopefully we get to catch up
Jason.
again soon.
This was a blast. I loved hearing
Absolutely.
that side of this whole conversation. Good to see y'all. I'll be around.
All right, great. Thanks again to Doom himself, Zach Wilson. Always great to have him in there, and we'll wrap things up in another couple minutes. But I know he had what we like to call a hard out for noon. Jason, just some more general stuff. You can always bring it back to the law if you would like, but just general thoughts on the show. We're 5 episodes in. We're over the hump at the halfway point now.
Yeah,
we've got 4 more coming. So what are you thinking in general?
I'm enjoying it. I especially like that. My worry was with this trademark episode was that it was going to go off the rails. That a roof would fall over and there'd be explosions and it would just turn into a superhero show. But they kept it as a sitcom. They kept it as a legal show without really having to turn it into a big battle. So I like that they have the willingness to do that. Give it action when it needs to be, make it a comedy when it needs to be. I think this is a very versatile show, and I think it can really have a long run as long as they keep that variety going.
I agree. I think that it can be a lot of very different things, and they can surprise us with a dramatic episode at some point. So watch out. Nate, any final thoughts before I understand you need to run as well?
I do, yes. But I agree with Jason. I'm really glad that they are leaning into the legal side of the show. And this is how Titania kind of makes her first strike back, especially since when we first saw them, they actually had, I don't know if I'd call that a fight, but a physical altercation in the courtroom. But yeah, I'm really enjoying the show. I love the world building. It just feels good. Like in bringing Jen down to earth, like she's still got powers, but she has a lot of relatable qualities. I'm just really excited for. I do kind of want the pace, I don't know, to pick up a little bit more. I would like something that we're leading towards, but also maybe that's why it's good, is because it's not doing that. It's just kind of taking its time and enjoying each episode. So,
and
thank
Nate,
you guys.
If people want to keep in touch with you, where do they find you?
Twitter, Instagram, Zynga, Facebook, Dog Like Nate, Dog with 2 G's. Thank you, Jason. It was nice hearing from you. We appreciate all your
we will hopefully see you next week. Thanks again, Nate. And I have no idea what Zynga is. I can't even pretend. I'm just like, wait, is that the one that's the Chase app? And I'm like, no, that's Zelle. Michael, you have to know what Zynga is, right?
I thought it was that game where you just mess up and the thing falls over.
That's Jenga.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So that's close. All right.
I thought it was what Jim Parsons said on The Big Bang Theory.
That was Bazinga, I think, right? Bazinga, yeah. The mystery deepens.
Yeah. Look, I think that I agree with your assessment earlier, Eric. I like what we're getting from this show. I like the approach of the case of the week, and it really is, it is the quirky legal show that happens to have a superhero or a superpowered individual as the main character. And I don't know, I just like what they're doing. And I think that this show is clearly not for everybody. And that's where you run into a lot of trouble, because as I've said, if you see the ad on the side of the bus of She-Hulk and you go, that looks stupid. If you watch that first trailer and you're like, that looks terrible. It's like, it's not going to win you over. You've seen what it is. And, and especially people who watch the first episode. And I'm like, why are you still watching 5 episodes in? And I was going to say Jason might follow on Twitter, somebody I know who does that, but Jason barely uses his Twitter. I didn't want any more from this show than what it's giving me. I think we can assess after the 9th episode if I feel like they've told a cohesive season-long story. But for now, I don't know. I'm just happy with it. And Jason, I know you were a little apprehensive about the show. Yeah. And but I was going to say, you can't be swayed by, no one is less swayed by Twitter reaction than you, because you tweet like once a year, right?
Yeah, I Twitter means nothing to me, but I will say the thing that I've been having problems with Marvel lately is, I'm more of a casual fan, but
Sure.
I enjoy, Spider-Man and stuff. But as the MCU keeps getting bigger, 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 the stuff all moves to space. Every movie's just been about, the Earth ending or the universe ending or now the multiverse ending. And it's like I miss those Spider-Man, movies where it was just like blowing up a building. Like, can we just get it down to that level, like the early Iron Man, And it's like, I love that this is kind of bringing that back. I think I texted you one time where Feige said that they were splitting the MCU into the cosmic and the street level or whatever. I'm like, I'm out on the cosmic. I'm out. It's all magic and whatever, but I love that this is street level, relatable, and I think that this is exactly what I want out of the MCU. More of this type of stuff.
Yeah, I like both, but I think that the cosmic aspect of it is going to be a lot easier to lose people. And then look, these very character-based shows like She-Hulk, not everybody's going to like the character. So, just do what you can. I wanted to leave with some words of wisdom that Eric shared with me earlier. It's a quote from Michael's favorite actor, Terrence Howard. And the quote is, I was always wondering, why does a bubble take the shape of a ball? Why not a triangle or a square? I figured it out. If Pythagoras was here to see it, he would lose his mind. Einstein, too. Tesla. And I think that that's what I want from my James Rhodes, who, by the way, James Rhodes is my Iron Man. He was Iron Man when I started reading. Tony was just some drunk in a ditch. I'm like, who cares about this loser, And then, then he came back, and I was like, and that Tony Stark, he once rented out Disneyland for a date, and I was like, all right, I kind of like Tony Stark, but the drunk in the gutter Tony Stark, I always liked Rhodey better than him. In any case, excited to have had so much to talk about, and at one point we had 6 people on the show, and that's a maximum occupancy is 6, really. So I'm glad we didn't have 7 this week. And then that, of course, could bring Jason and I into a whole side conversation about Star Trek, but we won't do that. We will not do that now. Jason, I know you're on Twitter. I know you're Jason P. Blair on Twitter, but don't follow you because you don't look at it. You don't interact with it. So I guess if people are looking for the kind of law featured on She-Hulk, where should they go?
They should find me at Smith, Gambrell, and Russell, sgrlaw.com. Jason Blair at sgrlaw.com.
Yes, and as the slogan says, don't mess with Texas. Eric, soon to be headed towards Israel, but for now, here in the beautiful San Fernando Valley, where can people find you?
Well, I can always be found at Count Eric Connor over on Twitter and Instagram. And in honor of Jason, I even unearthed one of the great sort of meta things I ever found at Comic-Con, Robert Kopp 2.
Robert Kopp. I love it.
And this was one where they kind of embraced the famous Robert Kopp, which was in dollar stores everywhere. And they said, well, why can't we lean into it? So yes.
Why can't we have Robert
The second Robert Kopp, as we all know, is the superior Robert Kopp. So
I love it.
I don't think anybody.
And thanks for joining us today, Jason. It was incredibly informative.
Deny that. Also, always incredibly informative. Our friend Michael Shirley. Where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at I Hate Michael Shirley and Twitter at Michael X Shirley.
Yes, and if you're really adventurous, go ahead and try and slide into those DMs and see where it gets you. But as always, I can be found on Twitter and Instagram at Christian DMZ. Please subscribe to the Blackcast YouTube channel, BLADTCAST. We celebrated 500 episodes last week. The 500th episode had John Lovitz, and then we did a live show that had some cameos. Some truly big name stars showed up, like the other guy from Chips and some other cameos that some of our listeners were kind enough to put together.
Did he
And
flush the
again,
toilet this time?
What's that?
Did he flush the toilet like
No,
Estrada?
well, that was Eric Estrada. That wasn't Larry Wilcox. Yeah. Eric Estrada was on a radio interview for a show I produced that Jason used to listen to. And Eric Estrada was definitely taking a leak during the interview because he had to run to the airport afterwards. And it was very audible. And Dennis Miller, the host of the show, called him out on it. And they had a moment. And Eric was very kind to spend far too much time editing a video of me, and much appreciated for Blackcast 503. We're up to 504 right now. We're not going to stop. It's just I like getting my name out there. So subscribe, come along for the ride, and we'll be back next week to talk about She-Hulk episode 6. So we will see you then. And as the great Stan Lee would say, Excelsior!